Welcome, everybody. Welcome all the viewers. Got a super special interview today. I'm Derek Isaac, small business coach, and I'm joined by Mike Michalowicz, best-selling author, awesome guy all around. Love your content, longtime entrepreneur. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing well, Derek. Thanks for putting this together. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. So awesome to have you here. So we're going to jump right into it. We're talking about your book, Profit First. You've written a whole ton of books. This is probably one of the more popular ones, I'd say. It's the first one that I read of yours.
Yep.
Tons of value. And I wanted to know a little bit of what led you to write this book, what inspired you, what were the ideas leading up to it?
Yeah, I mean, what started it is I've been an author now for 12 years ago. Profit First, I think, was my fourth book I written. But prior to that, I was an entrepreneur. I still am. I own 3 businesses right now, but I had a business ever since I was a graduate from college and running these companies.
Mm-hmm.
The thing was, I built them. I even sold 2 of them, but they were never profitable running them. I actually thought the formula to success in a business was sell as hard as you can, just scale, scale, scale. Even though you're scraping by and you're under constant stress and there's no money left over, as long as you can sell it, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that model worked. I did it a few times, and this third business I started as an angel investor was a total calamity. I started these businesses. I had no right to be in space. I didn't understand what angel investing really was. And I was an abject failure. I actually lost all of my wealth. I wiped out everything. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost everything.
Yeah.
And I remember the defining moment for me and what brought Profit First around was I had to come home to my children and my wife and my 3 kids and tell them that we're going to lose our house. And I told my daughter at that time, I said, I can't afford your horseback riding lessons when we are broke. And I'm sobbing. It's not like I'm speaking like I am now.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying this, my daughter, she was 9 years old. She runs out of the room. I thought she was running away. She actually ran to her bedroom. She runs back with a piggy bank, and it was her life savings, whatever, $6 or something. And she plops down and she goes, Daddy, since you can no longer provide for our family, she goes, I will be the provider. And just thinking about it right now, it hit me like a ton of bricks of shame and embarrassment for myself, pride in her. And I devoted my life ever since that experience to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Actually, on my wall here, it's behind a light, but it says that right there in metal, it says eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. You can only see pieces of it. Yeah. And that's why I believe I exist. So every book I write is to serve that. And poverty presents itself in many forms. Not enough time, losing our soul, the business takes ownership over us. But the biggest thing is this check-to-check survival. Most businesses, there was a study by US Bank, most small businesses, 83% in fact, are surviving check by check. So anyone who's listening live right now, statistically, if your business does less than $25 million in revenue, that's a small business, according to the SBA, chances are you're surviving check by check. And I was, and I'm like, I'm going to root that out. So I wrote Profit First to eradicate the financial poverty that entrepreneurs experience.
Yeah. Yeah, very touching. So glad that you did. I know my first business too. Like, I wish I had read this book years and years earlier, because it would have saved me a lot of trouble down the road. So, Profit First, in a nutshell, can you give us like a quick overview of what it is, like what the system does?
Yeah. So traditional accounting, the core formula is sales minus expenses equals profit, and I don't even need to explain much more because everyone knows that you have to have income, you subtract expenses you incur, and what's left over is profit. In fact, it's in our vernacular, we call it the bottom line or the year end. The thing is, all of those things say that profit comes last. Profit's the bottom line, it's the leftover, it's the year end. While it makes logical sense, it fails us behaviorally because it's human nature. When something comes last, it means it's not important. It's I call it the manana syndrome, right? It's like, it can wait till tomorrow. Examples, if you love your family and you care for them, you'd never say, I put my family last. That means they're not important. You say, I put them first. If you're focusing on your health, you say, I put my health first, not last. And the problem with profit, we're saying we put it last. So in execution, most business owners wait till year end. Actually, as we're doing this right now, It's the year-end calculations are happening. We're doing tax returns. We're going to sit there hoping we had a profit. And our accountant will come to us and say, nothing. Or the worst case scenario, you had a little profit, and you ask them where the money is. They're like, oh, it's an accounting profit. You don't have it.
Yeah.
And when there's nothing left over, we say, well, maybe next year. We literally delay the consideration for profit till next year. So the solution that I teach in Profit First is to flip the formula. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. And what I mean in execution is this. Every time revenue comes into your firm, we take a predetermined percentage of that money, and it can be a varying percentage. I explain in the book's strategies, but you take a percentage first, you remove it from the business, you hide it away, and you run your business off the remainder. You literally take your profit first and hide it. And what happens here now is we're reverse engineering profit. If I want a 10% bottom line, I take my 10% first, hide it from my business, and then that remaining 90% is what I have to run my business off of. So take your profit first. And now profit is no longer an event, meaning an eventuality. It happens one day. Profit is now a habit. It's baked into every transaction every day.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's the beauty of the system is you're taking a predetermined amount of profit, and then you know what you have left to work with for your expenses. And if that doesn't work out, then your expenses are too much or out of whack. So that's awesome. And then you talk about the survival trap of business owners. You mentioned it before a bit. Where this happened to yourself, where you're just pushing for growth, get more sales, and you'll be profitable. But that's often not the case. Can you kind of explain what some of the issues are with the survival trap?
Sure. Yeah. And the survival trap is something I address in a lot of my books. It's the rush toward the apparent or obvious solution, or the hopeful solution is probably a better choice of words, to the neglect of what the business really needs. And so what many business owners will do, if you can just imagine this in your mind, draw a letter A on a piece of paper, put a circle around it right in the center of a piece of paper in your mind. A represents where we are right now, right? It's point A in our business, like this second. And so if we consider our businesses right now, there may be a lot of challenges, problems happening, perhaps crisis. Well, how do we resolve that? Well, you get out of A, get out of crisis. What you can do with that imaginary A in our mind is you can draw arrows in any direction you choose to get out of A. So you just draw arrows out. But the thing is, they can go in any direction. And regardless of the direction you take, you get relief because you're out of A. The thing is, we don't know what B is. B is what the business needs from us. So in that picture in our mind, if we put B in the kind of the bottom right corner, how many of these arrows do we draw go toward B? Chances are few, none, but not all of them, because we're going in different directions. And what this simply points is that when we make decisions in the moment, it's about the moment and escaping the problem, which gets us into the next moment, the next challenge. We need to be very deliberate in where we're heading. So when it comes to profit challenges, so many businesses are like, oh, we just need a rainmaker. That's the solution. So we pursue the rainmaker path. And when that doesn't work and there's no such thing as a rainmaker, you, the business owner, honestly are the rainmaker. Then we're like, we got to run a discount, or we got to do a promotion, or everyone's doing these launch campaigns. Clearly it's a launch. And when all these things fail for us, we start seeing that, well, we often never see that we're just stuck in a circuitous path, never getting to what the business needs. If the business isn't profitable, I'll tell you what it likely does not need. It does not need Facebook ads. It does not need a launch campaign. It doesn't need a rainmaker. It doesn't need some discount. It doesn't need any of that stuff. What it typically needs is simply a profit extraction system. That's what Profit First is, to extract the profit. Then the business starts telling you how to run more efficiently. It starts to speak to you because now you're limited on resources. When we're limited on financial resources, our mind kicks in. It's called Parkinson's law. We start working with the resources available to us. We start becoming far more innovative. And because we took our profit first, it's accumulating. That's the B out of the A.
Yeah, perfect. And the book with the Profit First system, it shows exactly kind of what the challenges are with the survival trap, and with setting up the Profit First system, how you can essentially eliminate that type of thinking and that trap that people can fall into. So most people, depending where they are in their entrepreneurial journey or their business, have their accounting and whatever set up. Most of it very basic. What are some of the challenges with transitioning into a Profit First and getting that system set up in a business? What do you find entrepreneurs kind of struggle with?
So what I'm happy is we now have over 400,000 businesses that we know of doing it. It's quite possibly more, but 400,000 companies doing it. And we have a lot of case studies. And not everyone has done it successfully. So unfortunately, we have the studies on how not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The most common thing we see is that people, first of all, just don't believe it. And they're like, well, allocating profit first, that can't work. It's a shell game. So there's a disbelief. And let me tell you, I respect that. I was very skeptical of the system myself. When I created it, it wasn't because I believed in it. I was desperate. I needed something. So I just started testing and playing with it and kind of guinea pigged on myself. So the first thing is trying to kind of overthink it instead of just doing it and proving it to yourself or not. The other common challenge is people say, oh, these accounts, and I explain in the book all the accounts you need to set up. I'll just do this in a spreadsheet, or I'll do my accounting system. I don't need to do this at my bank. But Profit First was designed to do what's called a behavioral intercept. If your natural behavior is to log into your bank account to see how much money you have in your business, once a month or once a week, or honestly, for most people, it's like 10 times a day. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Log in my bank account regularly. We need the system there so it intercepts what we see. If you see a clump of money just sitting there, it's likely we're not going to log back into the accounting system, go through all these calculations and figure out what's truly available. We'll say we have money to spend or not. So using a spreadsheet or using an accounting system does not help you control the cash flow through Profit First. It's great for accounting and tax reporting and detailed analytics of your business. It's horrible for day-to-day or moment-to-moment cash management. So that's what Profit First does. You do it at the bank. And I think the third most common mistake people make and why Profit First will fail them, they go too big too quick. So some people discover a system and say, oh my gosh, this is the pay yourself first system, just like I'm told to do at home. I want to save 50% of my income at home. I'm going to make my business 50% profitable. So, we're making this money. We were never profitable before. Starting today, 50% of all money goes into profit. It's too abrupt of a shift. That's like someone that's never run a marathon, doesn't even exercise. The next morning, they're running a marathon. Like, you're going to have a heart attack. Don't do that. Just learn to stretch. Mm-hmm. The key to successfully implementing Profit First, and the vast majority of those 400,000 plus companies that are doing it, they've started slow and they let it grow. Meaning they set up a profit account, but they allocate a small percentage, maybe 1 or 2% during the first quarter of getting used to the system. Then they move profit to 3 and 4 and ultimately move it to their ultimate percentage over time, maybe months or even a year or so. But don't go full throttle right away. That's the 3 most common mistakes.
Yeah, perfect. What great advice there. And I love these, start small, make it manageable, and then, build it up. Every system, there's always an implementation stage where you kind of got to figure things out, and you have to kind of teach yourself and learn how to do that. I know you have a team as well that can provide that kind of education. So that's perfect. And then later on in your book, there's a point that I really enjoyed, which was the distinction between working on your business and working in your business. And a lot of entrepreneurs know about, the difference, although they're not sure on how to allocate their time. And I think what you mentioned was that they jump into working on their business too much of the time. Can you maybe fill us in a little bit of how you coach people as far as how to focus their time, whether they're working in their business or working on their business?
Yeah. So Michael Gerber wrote an amazing book called E-Myth Revisited. I encourage everyone pick that book up. And I had the good fortune of sharing a main stage keynote with him. He speaks on working on versus in. And most entrepreneurs really aren't entrepreneurs because we're working in the business. We bought ourselves a job. He suggests we got to work on the structure on the business. Well, after we keynoted, he was the opening keynote, as the closing keynote. It was in Mexico, of all places, Monterrey, Mexico, beautiful city, modern. And we went out to dinner together. And I was sitting with him. I said, Michael, one of the challenges, and we were discussing this, that people have with this in versus on concept is there's this perception of a light switch. That's what I thought it was for me, that if I simply worked in my business long enough, full throttle, if I worked my ass off, that one day, almost magically, the switch would flip and all of a sudden the business would be returning to me, covering me, it'd be operating on its own. Mm-hmm. Well, there is no miracle moment. And I think that's the mistake. What the process is this throttling process. In fact, I wrote another book called Clockwork, where I talk about moving from doing work to designing outcomes and the different stages we go through. But the essence of the extraction, is that it is surgical and it's slow. So if you're working in the business right now, to all of a sudden, say you're a one-person business, to hire another person to run the entire show, That's 100% growth. That's like Google, who has, I don't know, 100,000 employees. Could you imagine Google announcing today that tomorrow, Friday morning, they're going to have 100,000 new employees all get started? Like,
Yeah.
that is such radical growth. It would overwhelm even the mighty Google because it's 100% growth. Well, when we know it's 100% growth, adding one person to a one-person company, that's 100% growth. That is radical. That is too intense. So the key is to start surgically removing ourselves from tasks and responsibilities that we are not necessarily good at, that are cumbersome but necessary, that are maybe more administrative, and allow ourselves to do the higher, more talented or technical work, while assigning out pieces to other people. And those other people aren't necessarily full-time employees from the get-go. It's a virtual help, contractors, part-time labor, but start extracting ourselves. The big thing is ultimately we just have to shift to a mindset. And here is kind of the pinnacle way to do it. Change the label you use. I, for the longest time, have called myself an entrepreneur. When people ask me what I do, I say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur because I own businesses. Well, the term entrepreneur, in my opinion, has been so bastardized with hustle and grind. Like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to work your ass off, hustle and grind. How bad do you want it? That I think we believe that is the appropriate responsibility and work for an entrepreneur, is just to hustle. And the reality is, no, entrepreneurship has never been about doing the work. Entrepreneurship is about taking ideas and manifesting them. In fact, only about 7% of the world population will ever start a business or run a business, own a business. That's entrepreneurs. 93% of the employable population is looking for a job with a good company. They want to work for a company that they can rely on. Our job as entrepreneurs is to be providers of jobs. And I think we need to change our title now because entrepreneurs are so bastardized. I call myself a shareholder, which is very weird when I'm like at a dinner party and someone's like, so I never meet you before. What do you do? I'm like, I'm a shareholder of a small business. We're like, what does that mean? I'll tell you this. I also own stock in Ford. So I'm a shareholder of Ford. I own 100 shares, like nothing to write home about. But when they send their quarterly distribution checks, I don't say, I got to run down to the Ford factory and earn this. I say I took risk. This is a profit for me. I don't say, oh my gosh, I need to push this back, return it to the company, and rah, plow back, push. No, I invest in the company. That's a reward for me. My job is to collect a reward for my investment and risk taking and to give it strategic direction. So I do vote for the board of directors, just like all shareholders do. And when there's votes on strategic decisions, I'm a shareholder, I vote. Well, in my small business, I collect the profit because I've taken the risk to start a company that provides for other people. So that's my reward. What I also do is I give it strategic direction through voting, opinion, and I select the board. I determine who the leadership team is. That's my job as a shareholder. So I challenge people to call themselves a shareholder of a small business and then act accordingly.
Wonderful. Perfect. Yeah. Great points. Great advice. Thanks so much, Mike, for coming on here, sharing with the audience, the viewers here. Thanks everybody for watching. So besides picking up your books, going and buying your books, getting all the great information, maybe you can tell us a few of the books that you have. I know you have some newer ones, and then also how can people get in contact with more of your content? Is there a website or social media that you'd like people to see some of your stuff on?
So just the quick background on it. I've written, my most current book is Fix This Next. I'm writing a new one. It's releasing next September. Fix This Next is about finding the exact thing your business needs from you instead of working on everything. What's the one thing? Clockwork, how to design the business to run itself, profit first. Pumpkin Plan was a growth strategy. And I've written more. I have Surge and so forth. What I invite people to do, the easiest way to get started is go to, well, I'll give you two ways. You can go to MikeMichalowicz.com, but here's the deal. No one can spell Michalowicz, honestly, so don't worry about that. Try Mike Motorbike, like the motorcycle. That was my nickname in high school. I didn't drive a motorcycle. It was a funny rhyming name, but go to MikeMotorbike.com. You'll see the books listed there. You can determine what is a fit for you now. There is a ton of resources up there too. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal, so you can grab articles, but you can start exploring different elements of your entrepreneurial journey. My commitment is to simplify the journey for you, regardless of the resource you choose. And it's all at MikeMotorbike.com.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Thanks again so much. I really appreciate you helping us, helping small business owners, all the awesome work that you're doing. You're helping tons of people. So we thank you for that, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Derek.
Hold up. Your network is equal to your net worth. Check out the video description below to join our Facebook community of game changers. Also, get your free copy of How to Double Your Reading Speed in 7 minutes. All it takes is 7 minutes to save yourself time, learn better, and crush your goals quicker. So check out the video description below now.